There we go. Hey, what's up? What's up, everyone? Everyone listening, everybody watching. Welcome again to another week of Good to See My Friends. I'm here with, as usual, Tobias Maximus,
Hi,
otherwise known as.
Stephen. Hi, friends.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, doing okay. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
I'm excited about this movie today.
Oh hell yeah! This is gonna be a good one. I'm really excited about this one. This week we're gonna be talking about the movie Heat, the 1995 Michael Mann. Uh, what is it? Crime thriller Heat. It's fucking great show, great movie, whatever you wanted to call it. And I remember, I'll start off really quick with a little
Please
quick
do.
story. I did not. Uh, let's see. Wait, hold on. No. I retract that statement. So I did see this in the movie theaters. I did see
Okay.
this alone in the movie theaters in '95, and it was billed up as this kind of showdown between Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, and that was the big sell of it. And I mean, I think now after watching, and I've watched this many times, and it seems to be just in the I don't know, in the atmosphere,
In
in
the
the ether,
zeitgeist.
whatever you want to call it. It's always been a go-to movie. Um, and I wanted to ask you, Toby, why do you think that this movie still has is still relevant even today in cinema?
The first thing that comes to my mind as far as relevancy goes is this is the first time we've ever seen Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in a scene together. They had been in The Godfather 2. They're two of the biggest heavyweights in 1995, you would argue still to this day. They're total A-list. They've got Oscars between them, and we've never seen them in a scene together. And we get that paid off beautifully for the first time on screen in Heat in the diner scene.
Yeah. Kate, what is it? Kate Mantelini's. Kate Mantelini's in down in Westwood, I think it was.
Okay.
Fantastic. Yeah. Great scene. Great scene.
So there was a lot of I think there was a lot of rumors that may or may not have been true. Like they didn't act together before because they didn't like each other. I don't think that there's any truth behind any of that. I didn't, and I don't. I've seen interviews with both of these guys. They're friends to this day, and they've been in other things since that time. I
Yeah.
think the last thing was The Irishman came out a couple years ago on Netflix.
Yeah.
That they were in just about every scene together in that movie. But with Heat, we hadn't seen that before, and so I think we enjoy seeing two New York guys that for the most part have played nothing but gangsters, or it's rare that one of them's a cop. I think this is one of the first movies we see Al Pacino play a police officer. And so that was fun to watch how his character goes about being in law enforcement as opposed to being on the other side of the law. And with them being New York guys, this movie takes place in Los Angeles. And so they're kind of a fish out of water. It's just things we hadn't seen before. We had not seen anything like this. So I think maybe why is it relevant to this day?
Or why does it last? Why is it such like a lasting, legacy?
Well, like John Lennon said, a good song is a good song. So a good movie is a good movie. We've seen a lot of bank robbery type movies before. This was a bank robbery movie before the Michael Mann. You were the one who actually told me that this was like a Saturday afternoon special type movie that he had written for DC that came out like in 88, 89 and nobody saw it. And it's almost word for
I think it was 89 or 90. Yeah, one of those 2 years. L.A. Takedown. Yeah,
L.A.
dude.
Takedown. That's what it was called.
It was like a Saturday night movie, Friday night movie, or something.
And nobody
I
saw
mean,
it.
yeah. Well, I mean, it used to be on YouTube. I looked it up yesterday. I couldn't find it. I could only find scenes, but it used to have the whole movie on YouTube up until about, I don't know, like 6 months ago. But
Really? Okay.
yeah, and I mean that was kind of a run through because you saw the bones of it, and you can. And one of the videos I did see was the side by side of certain scenes in each movie that were, and it was basically just a lower budget version of the movie, obviously, but you know, I think some of he had to work within the certain parameters of TV, and I think um, it was a little edgy for TV at the time. But again, they just didn't have the budget. I mean, there were scenes like the scene where they get what's it? The cops got made,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
yeah, that part. Well, in the movie, it's this big, big like junkyard, or not junkyard, but like a dock, a dockyard. But in the TV version, it's just that scene takes place in like a business park, or like out front of a big tall building, and it's like if you were in Santa Rosa, or let's see, in Petaluma, it would be Jesus. In Santa Rosa, it would just be more of like the state building down on like Third Street,
Okay.
or Second Street, whatever, and just this little yard, with a fountain in it, and it's kind of it's just kind of low budge, but I mean, it's such a he wanted to do this movie ever since he did Thief, and he had written it, and he had no interest in directing it, and he just wanted to get it made. But in the interim, he kind of did Manhunter, and then he did what did he do? Miami Vice, and then he did Crime Story for TV, The Last Mohicans, and then he kind of did this movie. So
And
that's
Manhunter, if refresh my recollection or refresh my memory, that's the one where we first meet Hannibal Lecter. Is that right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was
They made it into like not Red Dragon, might have been Red Dragon remade.
Yeah,
it was with
yeah.
Okay.
That novel. So that was basically that. That's why they. But and you could see a lot of, I think, of Heat, and not necessarily that the criminal elements of it, but more of the atmosphere of his, just Michael Mann style of directing. Yeah. More atmospheric, and not a lot of dialogue, and
yeah, there's a lot of dialogue in this movie, though.
Yeah. There's a lot in this one, but there are scenes where it's very, especially with the scenes with Neil McCauley, Robert De Niro's character. Lots of scenes where him just being, silhouetted against the background,
yes.
Whether it be looking out his deck into the ocean, or
that's right,
out the city skylines, stuff like that. So yeah,
he's a man of few words, right? And Al Pacino makes up for it. I think Al Pacino has like 4 times the amount of dialogue that right, that De Niro has.
Yeah, well, when he's talking when he meets Edie, Robert De Niro, and he's out in the thing, and she's talking about her ancestry and how they came over the Appalachians, and where are you from? I'm from the Bay Area. That's it.
Right. Could be right. Who knows?
Yeah. So yeah.
Anyways, that's so funny. I mean, we get used to Michael Mann after this movie does all the Transformer movies. And I mean, we get used to Michael. When you see Michael Mann movie, you're like, a planet's probably going to blow up at some point in this. I mean, there's a lot of big explosions. He goes real bombastic after Heat, and I don't know that we'd seen a lot of that in '95. And then we got used to, is it a Michael Mann movie? Okay, we'll bring your earplugs. This is gonna be loud in the theater. This is gonna be a lot of exploding and guns going off. So. He really delivers on that. Sometimes you just need a good Michael Mann, cars crashing into stuff, that kind of thing. But In '95, we hadn't seen it. We were all very much looking forward to seeing Pacino and De Niro together. And of course, then you look at the rest of the cast. You got Val Kilmer, who's coming off Tombstone and The Doors, and
Yes.
he's at the height of his powers.
Well, he's making Batman as
And
he's making this as well.
he's making Batman. He's right.
Well, I think
Right.
yeah. The story
95 was a
is
big
that
year for him. He had a lot of, he had, like, I
oh
looked at
yeah.
his IMDb credits. I think he had 3 or 4 movies come out in 95.
Well, he and I don't know if he got paid scale or I don't know what it was, but he said that he wanted to do this, and he said that he wanted to do a movie with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, and he asked Michael Mann instead of a big paycheck, he just put him on the poster between those two, and that's what he did. So,
Are you kidding me? He didn't get paid for
no.
this?
Well, I don't know if he got paid scale. I don't know what he got paid for, but I know that part of the deal was because his agent was telling him, "Don't take this. This is below your pay grade." And he was like, "Hey, this is Al Pacino and Robert De Niro."
Right.
Because they originally wanted Keanu Reeves as
Chris Chihirlis?
Chris. Yeah. Which I can see. I thought I would watch that.
Oh, for sure.
But I think Val knocked it out of the park. So
he's great. His scenes with Ashley Judd are phenomenal.
yeah. What do you think the history is between those two? Like, I was thinking about that this last time that I watched it. I'd never really thought about how or what the dynamic of the relationship. I just thought they met, they fell in love, but then, and this is the thing, watching this movie as many times as we have, you just pick up on different things all the time. It's kind of like what you were talking about, The Thing. You could watch that. This time I was thinking, what is the dynamic of the relationship? Because uh, she has that affair with Marciano. Is that that
right? Hank Azaria's character. Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking, well, maybe she was like a call girl or an escort or a hooker or something like that. And because she's worried about the money, she's like, well, 8,000 isn't worth what what we're doing. And
right. Because he just paid the bookie off.
Yeah, exactly.
His score was bigger than that, but when he had to see his bookie on his way home, and all he had left over was $8,000. I think that's a great question. I think there's a couple of clues in there. He says something to the effect of, the sun rises and sets with her, and he tells that to McCauley, but she says in that scene where the risk isn't enough for the reward. She says a line where we're not making adult decisions and moving forward. So that tells me that I think they've been like childhood sweethearts, and she's known what they do all along. They have this son together who she threatens to take the kid away and he just loses it. Right. I mean, absolutely not. And she knows what he does for a living, but they never talk about it. So she's in the dark on that. That's how I see their relationship. I think they've been together for so long that this is now, she is now going out and we're not making adult decisions, which they were together as kids. I don't know. That's the way I kind of interpreted it.
Oh, okay. That's a good way to look at it too, because I never picked up on their dynamic, in the relationship. I just thought, oh, okay, they met. He makes a lot of money. She probably is used to that lifestyle. But then, for whatever reason, I was watching it yesterday, and I was thinking, like, wait, hold on, what? Like, why are they? Or how? Why is? It doesn't seem like. It just doesn't seem like it's. I don't know what the word is, like mutually, like it just seems like he's more of, I want her more than she wants me. That's what I always feel like, because she's always threatening, well, I'm gonna take Dominic, and
right,
that seems to be his trigger point. And
and she knows that, and she can use that against him.
Yeah.
I think that when McCauley asks him that morning that he wakes up on the floor of his house that has no furniture in it, he says, "Are you seeing anybody else or something like that?" And he goes, "Nothing serious." Is she seeing somebody else? And he goes, "No." Like, he doesn't even dawn on him that she has been. And Neil's like, "Well, I'm going to go investigate this," and he figures out. It doesn't take him very long to figure it out. So Chris, I think that Chris has been, again, he's been in this relationship so long that he's taking it for granted. There's no way she's gonna ever cheat on me, and he's wrong on both of these counts. She's sick of it. She even tells Neil when he busts in the door, "I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it." This has been going on a long, long time for them. So
and to that, he's like, he messes up again, I'll set you up myself.
Right.
So she's used to this kind of lifestyle. I just never thought about that their relationship dynamic, because I just always thought, oh, this is Ashley Judd and Val Kilmer just, acting wonderfully, but I just never looked past that, because I think with the other guys, they all have their roles, especially Michael Trito. He has a daughter and T-bills and real estate and stocks.
Yep. And he and his wife are very close, and he's giving her jewelry at the dinner, and little things like that. That's one of those indicators. I'm like, you're one of the, and you learn this in, what is it, Goodfellas? Look, if we're going to take big scores, don't go out and buy anything flashy the next day.
Right.
And he's giving her jewelry, and they were kind of all sitting around the table. Don't ask where he got it from. And they're kind of laughing. They're kind of happy-go-lucky thieves in that way, and they're. But yes, Michael Chirito, he and his wife. This is a really tight crew. Like Chirito tells Waingro, real tight, real tight.
Yeah.
And they've been in and out of prison and all this stuff, and they just get right back together again. And they've got a great infrastructure with I didn't write a whole lot of notes down, but he's played by, oh God, what's his name? Who's the Neil goes and visits with? I just drew a blank on his name. I'm sorry. He's got a mustache in the.
Yeah. Jesus, this is what it's like getting old, huh?
Nick. I think it's Nick. Yeah, it is. This is like what's his character's name is Nick. He's the one who is got the contact.
Angelina Jolie's dad.
Yes, thank you, Angelina Jolie's dad. I blocked his name from my memory for other reasons, but that's fine. He's the one who sets him up with all these different scores that they've got going on. And then they've got the guy who lives up on the hill, like on Signal Hill somewhere in LA, where he's just a hacker up there
that's Tom Noonan.
Yes. Yeah.
He was the killer in Manhunter. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. He played Hannibal Lecter.
No, he played the killer in that movie. Hannibal Lecter was played by somebody else.
Yes.
But yeah. Anyways.
But we digress.
Yeah, we digress.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
Or if you had a thought that you wanted to finish with the dynamic of this group. Let's talk about the dynamic of the cops, because we got two different tight crews here. Your thoughts on the dynamic? They are in a similar situation where they go out and they have a dinner, and they're sitting around and they're hanging out with the wives and that sort of thing. What do you see? What do you see in those relationships? Obviously, we know Al Pacino's relationship with his wife, his third wife, is not going well.
Yeah.
But what about the other characters in that group?
Well, I think that it's the same kind of bond that the so-called or quote unquote criminals have. It's a bond, it's trust. It's knowing that each person is going to do their job. Like, I feel like him and Michael T. Williamson, Bubba, Um, they're good with the informants, and they're good to go out on the streets, and they're good with that stuff. But then you talk to like Wes Studi and Buffalo Bill, I forget his name in this,
Yeah, it's Ted
but they're
Levine.
good. They're more good. They're better with the kind of the CSI part of everything.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
the reports, what was used here, what was used there. So they all have their part in each group, and you know the leader. So it's Al Pacino and Robert De Niro can each kind of count on count on certain people to do certain things, and then you have the muscle, which is that the guy that gets shot in the arm during the shootout. I can't remember I don't know his name, but guy with the blonde hair kind of looks like a surfer guy. He's more of the muscle, you know.
oh,
He's
right,
more of,
right.
but you know, it's kind of the same thing, and I think that's why he filmed it that way, where you have they watch um they watch them coming out of the restaurant, Al Pacino and the good guys. I'll just say that. Watch the bad guys coming out of the restaurant. Who's that? Who's that? Who's that? And then they cut to they're partying or they're having
Right.
dinner and they're just all in a group, and it shows the kind of same dynamic of it. And I think that that's kind of why you know this they kind of have that mutual respect for each other because each recognizes themselves probably in each other, and especially when they meet finally and they have that conversation about, you know, hey, you know, we've met and this and that, but that doesn't change anything. I'm still going to go after what I need, or I'm going to go after what I'm going to go after. And they kind of each set each goalpost. And, you know, and this kind of hard, and this is kind of a good thing too, because it makes you look, even though that this movie is still relevant today and it still kind of has legs, even though a lot of the technology back then is still like, oh, he drove into an airport, we lost him, or you
Yeah,
know,
right.
it's the big cell phones with the antenna, and but now it's still, you still kind of overlook that stuff because everything is just so um I don't know, I don't want to say relatable, but he crafted this story in such a way that you can kind of, you know, the it's almost like the crimes and the robberies are almost secondary to these characters and how the choices that they make according to their lifestyle affects their lives, and that's what you're really watching. And I think that's why people relate or like it so much, is because it's not, I mean, it is probably has the greatest shootout in cinema history, but
Absolutely.
and the greatest, you know, but it's still kind of like a drama, you know, at its heart, and it's kind of surrounded by this crime thriller. So I don't know
Yeah,
what did you? Yeah,
you bring up a great point. Is that the only time we see any kind of flashiness is when Chirino is giving his wife some
yeah,
jewelry at the dinner. Other than that, they don't. We don't see really them reaping the benefits of this all this hard work that they're putting in. And like Sizemore says, when they're trying to decide, are we going to do this last one or not? This, you know, $13
yeah,
million that we can go get. And Sizemore's character Chirino says, for me, the action is the juice. And I
yeah.
thought that was really, that's all they care about. It could be
Right.
$100. They're going to go and they're
Yeah,
going to give it their all. I mean, these guys are serious about this.
yeah. Because oh yeah, go ahead.
They're not going back,
Keep
and
going.
none of them are going to go back to
Yeah,
prison.
yeah. That's what I was just about to say. Yeah, you know, it's that thing of, you know, not having, well, to us or to me, they have everything. They have, you know, money, they have houses, they have, you know, some of them have families, but to them, it's it's not, that's not the end goal. The end goal is to stick it to, you know, it's the high, it's the rush of committing robberies and all the work that goes into it. And to them, they probably think, oh, this is my job, this is my day job, is, you know, Chirito, he's the electronics wizard, he's the one that can kind of, you know, what is it? Get into the computer
That's
systems
right.
and hack it.
He's up on the telephone pole,
Yeah,
hacking
and
it.
he's the one
Yep,
that
yep.
is doing all the circuit boards, and and Val Kilmer. So these people kind of again, going back to what I was saying earlier, is like these people have their roles, and they honor that, and it's a badge of honor for them because they can contribute. They
Yeah,
can go into crews and, well, I'm going to pick up this side job over here, and I'm going to do this little side job of maybe a smaller robbery or something, but they're good at what they do, and they're proud of that. So, but they can't go to PTA meetings, go, oh well, that Highline robbery last week, that was me. Yeah, I did
that's
that.
right. You got to be very
They
disciplined,
can't
right?
do that stuff. So it's just for them, that's why he says, that's the Jew. That's what I get high off of. And
Right,
so,
right. Because he's set T-bills,
yeah,
real estate. He's absolutely set. How he bought those things and made them and what washed them to make them clean, I don't know.
yeah,
But hey,
right,
the they're the way you described them kind of reminded me of the ex-presidents in Point Break, where they don't really care about the money. It's just they're living paycheck to paycheck on these little nickel and
yeah,
dime. They don't go to the vault because you waste too much time in the vault.
right,
And so I'll just take the 15 grand, the 30 grand that's in the cashier's drawers and get out of here, and then I'll tide you over for a while. The other idea of planning ahead of send the cops somewhere else, right?
yeah,
With a smaller crime, have them working on
yeah,
something else while you're go over here committing the larger crime in and out of that bank. He wrote this. Michael Mann wrote this movie. I don't know if
yeah.
it's based on a book. He wrote a book as a sequel that he's making into a sequel, which is going to
Yeah,
be really interesting to see, which is going to be a prequel
right.
of how these guys got to where they are. So when that comes out, will be interesting. I haven't read the book. I don't know. Have you read the book? Heat 2?
Um, I think I got it on audiobook. I haven't read it yet
Okay.
though, or I
I'm
haven't listened
curious
to
to
it.
see
So,
if we've picked this kind of story right. I think it's just going to be Vincent Hanna's character and Neil McCauley's character, but I'm sure he's going to have them meeting the crew and their
well, I
own.
heard, yeah, I heard that it's going to be sort of like the book is sort of like the Godfather Part Two movie, in that it shifts between the
Okay.
pre and the post Heat. So
Okay.
there's going to be some scenes. This is what I've heard, but there's going to be some scenes of like Chris in like South America or something where he fled to, and he's reminiscing on kind of, or maybe he's getting ready for another job. I can't
Oh,
remember,
right.
but
Because Chris is the only one who gets away.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
he's by himself now because he had to leave everything behind.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, he drives off. The cops stop him. He shows them the fake ID. They let him go, and we never see him again.
yeah.
It's conceivable that, and I'm going to have to look it up because it's going to bug me. That
What do you?
the guy who is kind of their boss, McCauley's boss. I think his name.
Oh,
They go by
Nate,
Nate. Nate, thank you. I said Nick
John
earlier.
Voight.
Nate,
Yeah, John Voight.
John Voight. You're right. It's assumed that he just goes back into that whatever bar or restaurant that he's running there as kind of their meetup spot, I guess. But let's talk about Van Zant's involvement in this whole thing. Van Zant, who's he's kind of got his own little crew of guys, and they're dipshits. Right?
I think
They're out of their
they're the
league.
wannabe ones. Yeah,
They're out of their league against both the cops and the robbers in this, and they're caught in the middle as his involvement is he's a money launderer, and they steal
yeah.
his bearer bonds. Here we go back to the bearer bonds again with the Beverly Hills Cop, right?
At
He
least it's not
steals.
German.
No, no, they're bonds. They're bearer bonds. Was that Sizemore in that role too?
In what
No,
role?
In
what role?
Beverly Hills Cop. We're a half hour in, so now we can start talking about
He was in actually Point Break, but he wasn't in Beverly Hills
Okay.
Cop.
So, and I forget his name. Shoot, is it D'Onofrio? Who plays that character? Not Vincent
Tom
D'Onofrio.
Sizemore or
No, who plays Van Zandt? He was also in the Batman movies. In the second Batman,
it's William Finchner.
Thank you, William Finchner. I had looked it up. He plays the bank manager in The Dark Knight, where we meet the Joker for the first time in the Dark Knight trilogy.
Bruce Batman. Yeah.
It's not his last name, Steve. He's a Batman. It's not, Spiderman? Dave Spiderman? No, he's a Spider-Man. So Van Zant's crew's a bunch of dipshits. And it's good to see Rollins. Rollins always has the same look on his face all the time, right?
You're really going to deal with these guys?
And he's got a weird name. I forgot. He doesn't say it a whole lot, but his character's name is like, I don't know, dude. If you got it up in front of you, say what his name is. It's like Bunny something, or I don't. Dude,
it is Hugh Benny.
Hugh Benny, that's what it is. That's not that messed up. In my mind, it was like Otto Bunny or something like that. It never says it, but he's got a first and last name for some reason, and it's never spoken. I don't know if you're going to buy the action figure. That's who you're going to look for. The Hugh Benny action figure. Good Lord.
I got the collectible, dude. It's in my drawer.
The only way you get the whole set is you got to get them all. Those are the rules.
So yeah, I think go ahead.
So he got what was coming to him. He was also kind of the downfall. I mean, he's a good device to have in this movie. There's time where you're kind of like, is he 100% necessary? And then you realize at the end that it's because Wayne Grow goes and meets up with him that's how Neil gets caught, because he just can't. He has to have his revenge. He says, I'm skipping to the end here. Of course, he's like, "Hey, we're home free." And he even says it out loud in the car on the way to the airport, home free. And I'm like, oh, no. First time you see it, you're like, oh, he didn't just say home free.
Yeah.
He's definitely going to die because he said home free. And it's because of Wayne Grow.
Wayne Grow fucked everything up, man.
Wayne Grow is a horrible, horrible character. He is terrifying. The actor, in early 2000s was in business in California, selling medical marijuana, and which is legal in California, but the feds didn't think so. So he and his a couple family members, cousins or something, I want to say, he ended up going to federal prison. For medical marijuana, and everybody in prison called him Wayne Grow.
Wayne Grow, yeah.
Because of course, man, dude, he's a scary dude, right? He's a murderer. He's a serial killer. He's killing prostitutes for fun.
Yeah,
God.
Well, and it shows that kind of. I don't know what the word is, but it shows his predisposition, I guess, for doing that at the beginning, in the opening kind of bank robber, when that guard is not doing anything, but he's like, right. You want to mess with me?
Right.
And then when he says, I had to get it on, he was making a move, man. I had to get it on. There's that urge in there. And I think that, him killing prostitutes
his character's a classic bully. They got guns on him. The guys the guards have nowhere to go. He shoots the guard. Then he gets confronted in the diner, and he's kind of groveling to the guys, and he's terrified. And he escapes from the McCauley and the crew. Then he goes to a 4'9" tall I think she's 16 years old. He's beaten up on weaklings everywhere he goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when he finally gets confronted at the end, he's like on the verge of tears. It's a classic bully. He got what was coming to him. I mean, he got off kind of easy if he had, 2 to the chest and 1 to the head kind of thing, which is exactly what Neil had to do to the rest of the guards because they were going to leave witnesses. He did the same double tap shot him in the same places that he had to shoot the guards, which I don't think I caught the first 30 times I watched this, but then
you know what? I never thought of that until now. I was today years old.
He did to Waingro what Waingro made him do to the guards, and you could tell he hated they didn't want to kill those guards and the armored truck. And you got to do what you got to do. They're not going back, right? There's a bunch of. I do have other questions for you. Your thoughts on I just mentioned the diner scene. That's the first of 3 diner scenes in this movie. We see them having pie after the heist, after the right.
Everyone wants some pie.
Yeah, they're all looking at him like, you psycho, dude.
You mother, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, with this guy talking about a guy over here. They're going to pay off Waingro, or they're going to pay out. It turns out they go out to the parking lot, and there's trunk of the car is lined with plastic. He knows this is it. They're just going to they're going to shoot him and put him in the back of this car. We're done with Waingro, but Waingro gets away. Then McCauley's in the diner where he meets Edie, and we have character development there.
Yeah.
And then we have the diner scene that everybody thinks of when they think of Heat. Your thoughts on and diner scenes have been used as a great setting for since movies were made. I mean, the list goes on and on. Yeah, Grease, Swingers, When Harry Met Sally. Any handful of Tarantino movies has a diner scene in it. I mean, the Hateful Eight, the whole thing you could call a diner scene. I mean, they're just in this room together the whole time, right? But your thoughts on as someone who's been to film school, the use of the diner scene and how Michael Mann uses it here in this.
Well, I think it's a kind of a good place to just kind of either relay information or to establish character. You can do that through dialogue, or you can do that through the setting of, putting it in a diner. But then you can kind of set the scene, and if they're relaying information, you could do it to establish character of who these people are. So if you take that first diner scene, for example, when anybody wants to buy, you see the different, going back to each of them having a role. All that it was probably planned beforehand, but yet it's executed in such a flawless way. So when they see McCauley come walking up, Trujillo says, "I got to go take a leak," which he's going to go out the back and get the thing ready.
Yep.
And Churrito he's pissed. He doesn't like this dude, and you can tell by his actions. So it's all set up there like that. And I think so when you go to the famous scene where it's just Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, they just kind of, it establishes both of their characters, and not only that, but it establishes their goals and why they're doing what they're doing. You get a sense of Al Pacino, he's married, and again, and this goes back to kind of the thing we did about the Penguin. It's kind of show me, don't tell me. So it's throughout the movie, you're seeing, I got 5 dead bodies, Diane, on Venice Boulevard. So he's not sitting there going, our marriage is in trouble because of this. It's not that. It's just the everyday life of a marriage. And so by the time he gets to that point where he says, well, we're passing each other on the downside of a marriage. My third, you can kind of go, oh, I see why you've been married 3 times, because
Right.
of the action. So it's just a good setting, I think, to kind of regroup, because if you do it like you said in the order of the movie, and also when Edie meets Neil McCauley, McCauley, it that you can see the differences in their characters as well. She's from the South,
Right.
she's very hospitable. Hey, what are you reading? Hey, and you know, he's a
He's like,
convict.
what do you care? What do you care? But like, he's
Yeah,
super rude to this really
he's
pretty,
hard.
right?
Yeah,
He's
he's
like,
hard.
yes,
It kind of represents like how he approaches his life. His life is very hard. So everything he sees, he's got to be calculated. He's got to be sussing these people out, and he doesn't see when someone's actually being tender or being just hospitable or being friendly. To him, that's like a, all right, what's up? They're being friendly. What's going
yeah,
on here? To him, that's something to be guarded about. But so then you see the characters in that, the characterizations of their, respective characters.
right.
So
And they tell each
it,
other their recurring dreams in that diner scene
oh
too,
yeah, that's
which
right.
is
Yeah.
that you get to see. I mean, everything that Al Pacino's telling Robert De Niro about himself and his stepdaughter. All those are all true. Everything he said
Yeah.
was true. He wasn't lying to him, making up a backstory. He's trying to build trust with this guy, right?
Right.
And he probably knows that if this guy was smart enough to get us to come out into the middle of a shipyard, container yard,
Yeah.
and we just got made, that this guy knows
Yeah.
he knows who I am. He's got my whole backstory and my jacket on. He knows everybody in this. And so he knows he can't lie to him, right. and so he's honest to him, and he gets Neil De Niro to tell him the story about the one where he's drowning, and they talk about what that means, right? These are both two guys that sounds like have been in therapy before, because this is you're going to sit down for a cup of coffee for 15 minutes. Telling each other telling the other person what their recurring nightmare is probably not one of the first 15-minute topic of conversation things, but they end up there for some reason, right?
Why do you think? Why do you think that? Why do you think that he asked him to go get coffee? Because that's something that I have always kind of thought of. Oh, it fits, and it does. It's not, but it is a little like. To me, it's a little jarring in the story, right, within the story, but it fits. Why do you think that he asked him to coffee?
What I think is he's okay. So he doesn't have this idea until he realizes his wife's getting ready to go out and she's not speaking. He's like, "Oh, where are we going?"
Yeah.
Well, where are you going? Yeah. She's putting her makeup on and she, finishing up the touches, and she's going out in her black dress. So he goes downstairs to look like he's going to start washing the dishes, and he just stands there. This guy has not taken a day off in however long, right? He's literally nonstop hammering home this gum, right? And he stands there in the kitchen, takes like 10 seconds, and he has this idea. And what I think goes through his head is, I can get all the bad guys. I can't get this guy, so I have to do something that I've never done before. I got to do something different. So he knows who I am, and I know who he is, and let's just get this out of the way.
Yeah.
And that scene, I always in my mind always envision it being like the beginning of like Act 3, and maybe it is, of this movie, but it's right in the middle of the movie, dude. It's like, this is like, call it a 3-hour movie. This is at an hour and a half point, where when you pause it, I was watching it on my tablet here, and when I paused it when that scene starts, and I'm like, it's right dead center in the middle of this movie. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like we're now getting to the end, right? He's caught the bad guy. We see him catch the bad guy, but he can't do anything with him because he hasn't committed a crime yet, right?
Right.
Nothing he can prove anyway. So I just think that's just such an interesting choice of this is the first, I'm Michael Mann. I've got the first time that Pacino and De Niro are going to be on screen acting in a scene together. They may have done stuff on Broadway and stuff like that because both of those guys have been known to do that too. But on a blockbuster summertime movie where they're going to be acting in scene together, he puts them in a diner.
Yeah.
You can put him anywhere in the world. He puts him in the diner. And that's just such like, let's just go back to what I was thinking is, let's just go back to keep it simple, stupid. What has always worked. There's a freaking diner scene in every movie, dude. People are going to sit down and have something to eat. Or they call it a diner scene, call it a kitchen table scene, whatever. It's such an effective way to get everybody in one room together, right? So that's what I think he's thinking. Did you have a different perspective on that? Did you think he wanted to like open fire on him or see if he makes a move, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I thought listening to your interpretation of that, you brought up some interesting points because I never really thought about it. I just thought, I always thought like, well, why did he do? And in the L.A. Takedown or whatever the TV version,
right,
is in a parking lot. This happens in a parking lot. He's like taking his dry cleaning out, and McCauley is like getting out of his car, and Hannah is getting in his car, and they both reach for their guns, and they're like, "Hey." And they realize they're in this like parking lot, so they're like, "Hey, how about if I buy you a cup of coffee?" And then they go and they have the scene. But I always thought.
And then the dialogue is essentially this. It's almost word for word because I have seen the dialogue. Yeah. It's almost the script is the same, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But when you were just talking about it, I realized, and it kind of came to me as you were speaking, was that throughout the whole movie we see the kind of the kind of battle between him and his wife. And how she's wanting more from him, and he's like, I can't give you what you want because I have to have this because it helps me, keeps me sharp, what he says.
Yeah.
And listening to you when you said, oh yeah, she's putting on her makeup and she's gonna go out, and he just came home and he's like, where are you going? And she's like, out. And he's like, I think for me, that scene, kind of the diner scene, is like him saying, or him asking for coffee, is him saying, I need to talk to somebody
who
understands what I'm going through. Hey, how about we go and have a cup of coffee? Not to romanticize it, but in a sense of like, look, this is who I am. I'm going after you. This is what I do. This is who I am. And at least Neil McCauley can kind of relate to him, because he's not getting it.
Wow, that's wild, dude. Because his wife is more of an adversary to him than McCauley is. He's got more in common with McCauley than he does with his own wife, right?
Right. Because they're always battling, and it isn't until they, Natalie Portman, does what she does.
Yeah.
And, they're at the hospital and that they finally he's finally ready to kind of say, well, I missed this over here. The bad guys got away. At least I have this, and that she did it at his hotel room. He kind of feels like, oh, I see what you're saying. But then it's like this, oh, I got this pager. I got this page. She's, oh, you can go. No, I'll stay. Because he's finally kind of realizing like, but then when he leaves, he knows that it's the end of that. And that's why he gets rid of, I feel like that's why he gets rid of his TV, kicks it out. He's like, I'm done. I've cut ties with that shit,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I thought.
Wow.
But you brought up a good point, because I didn't really think about that until you said, she's putting on her makeup and he's about to wash dishes and he's just like, I can't do this. This is not what I want right now.
No,
Like
God, can you imagine?
I'm not a come home, like he says to her at the restaurant. I'm not, am I going to come home and be like, let's commiserate and let me tell you about some heinous shit that happened.
Yeah,
He's like, I can't do that. So,
right.
Neil McCauley is the only one that could really probably give him any sort of kind of um, confirmation of what he's doing is good and what is, so.
And McCauley's character is his genius is his ability to listen, because
Yeah.
he's got, of all the different characters on the bad guys, he's
Yeah.
probably got the least amount of dialogue, and everybody else
Yeah.
and he's just listening, and he's obviously the focus on the screen, and when Robert De Niro's on the screen, you're paying attention to him.
Right.
And Michael Mann knows this in 1995.
Yeah.
Like, if De Niro's on the screen with the dark goatee, and you know what you're getting, right? This isn't some, these look like gangbangers.
Working the local 7-Eleven.
Working a local 7-Eleven? No.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Well, that's. Oh, go ahead.
No, you were.
Go ahead.
I hadn't really looked at it that way. And I'm going to watch it again when we're done here, and especially that scene. That's really sad, dude. That's a really,
Yeah.
it's really, really sad. And Edie asks when they leave the diner scene and they go to when Edie and Neil leave the diner and go to Neil's house to go look over the city of lights.
Yeah.
She asks him if he's lonely.
Oh yeah.
And he says, well, I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. And then she says, well,
Yeah.
I'm lonely. And that's how the relationship starts. So loneliness is a part of this whole thing. We know that Chris ends up all alone. He's the only one who actually lives through the damn thing.
Yeah.
But where's he go? He's just going to end up. He'll just get himself thrown back in prison.
I think that McCauley, I think is the, I wouldn't say the opposite of Hannah, but I think it's like he says he's what does he say? He's at a needle starting at zero going the wrong way. And I think for him, Edie kind of represents the thing that he's always kind of wanted, but maybe always kind of shut off because he's, this is his life and this is how he does his life. But she kind of reminds him of some sort of humanity, because, dude, she's the sweet girl, artist, and it kind of reminds
with a tight family. He picks up on that right away.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds him of what could be. And like he said, he's getting older, and I feel that too, as somebody who's 50 years old and single. It's like sometimes I feel like, oh geez, like am I ever gonna find that again? And so, not to get too deep, but that, some of that stuff plays into how I can kind of relate to Neil McCauley, and not necessarily I'm gonna go rob banks or anything, but it's just that human thing of
the night is young.
Hey, do you mind giving me your money? But it's like, so it kind of tempts him in that way. And that's why I feel like, when he says, what does he say? Home free. And he's just like, well, wait.
Yeah, they say, well, that's because that's what Nate says. Nate says, you're home free, brother.
Yeah.
But he does an idiot. Voight's an idiot. He's like, I just wanted to let you know that Wayne Gross checked into the airport Hilton under the name Johnson or Jack. Don't
Jameson.
Tell him that, Jameson.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What are you doing, dude? Why are you telling him this? He's in
he's driving. What came to me right now?
What's that?
Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean.
No, please. That's yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of brother, in this movie. Thank you, brother.
It's true, isn't there, brother? Yeah.
There's always brother. It's you, brother. And
so one other thing that I noticed about how the way he structured this movie, considering that you always think of it, as Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, right? Beginning, middle, and end. Yeah. And this one doesn't have that, and it reminded me of Return of the Jedi. That doesn't have a beginning, middle, and end. The Act 3, if you will, is the second half of the movie is battles three different battles going on for like an hour and 10 minutes. It's just literally the second half of the movie. This
just got like, give them more time.
Yeah. This one has, they have the big shootout, which is one of the, like you mentioned, and I'd agree, one of the greatest shootouts of all time. There's a shot in this, pardon the pun, there's a shot of the car coming down the road and guns going all four directions, firing in all four directions.
Yeah.
Down, I mean, they're in the financial district in Los Angeles, firing blanks, right? Which is, and I know somebody who worked in the financial district in Los Angeles at the time and remembers when they filmed that and just how freaking loud it was in the canyons of LA. Firing, because blanks are louder than firing actual bullets. I don't know, especially in the 90s. They probably have a suppressor now, but it's much louder to shoot nothing than it is to shoot a bullet, because the bullet's actually doing something. If all this is just making a bang sound, it has nowhere to focus so it's just full on loud, and he had the whole place. I mean, if you're watching it with headphones, remember when that shootout starts, turn it down a couple clicks, because God damn, it's so loud.
He used he just mic'd up the whole area and used the natural sound of the guns instead of over recording over and that's the only scene at the beginning of that before they get into the shoot. That's the only part of this movie. Oh, maybe there's another part, but it's one of the parts where I don't think it was edited not edited. But they're pulling up Hannah and his buddies in that car. Oh, look, they're already coming out.
They're already coming out, yeah.
And they're like half a mile away. Like you can't even see. They get out and they start. You could barely see them. Kind of. I don't know that whole work up to that point. I was like, how can they see that? But it's a tiny little.
Yeah, because they're hiding behind buses and stuff, and you're like, you see these guys 2 blocks away walking out with giant duffel bags.
Yeah.
So, the amount of so Michael Mann did a nice job in researching how much these guys could actually carry. You can't say, oh, we're going to steal $80 million. You know how much $80 million weighs? It's not going to be 4 guys carrying it out of there. I think that each person can probably carry something along the lines of $5 million in a duffel bag.
I thought it was 12 million or something. Didn't you say it was
they weren't sure what it was. The average was 13 million. Yeah. Because he's showing them the spreadsheet on this day at this time. It fluctuates between 12 and $13 million. But these guys are walking out of there with, call it $13 million.
Yeah,
and they're huge. These huge duffel bags. I researched this back in the early 2000s when I was trying to write. For Sonoma State. I had a creative writing class, and I was trying to write something similar to this because the detail is the important, the attention to detail. And I'm like, well, how much does, say they're all $100 bills. How much does a $100 bill weigh? Now, how much I think it's 1 ounce. Each dollar bill, I mean, you have to look it up. I forget what it is because it's been over 20 years, but I figured, that's why in Breaking Bad they had them in these barrels, and it was $80 million in barrels, and it took 5 or 6 barrels. Money takes up a lot of space. Cash takes up a lot of space, and it's heavy, and so these guys, that's about as much as they could have walked out of there with, was about $13 million. If you got Dennis Haysbert waiting in the car to drive you out of there, right? And 3 guys in there dealing with the crowd. then you can probably carry about $13-14 million out of there, because it's going to be like each of those bags weighs 100 pounds, and it's awkward.
Yeah. So that's a lot of money, man.
What do you do with it? Where do you put it? You put it put it on the floor and lay down on it like Bill Burr and Lavelle Crawford did in that scene in Breaking Bad.
Okay, hey, I got this new thing. It's a kind of a homage to Bill Simmons, but I got this little category here. It's the Klay Thompson Game 6 Award for favorite cameo or secondary character that takes over a scene. Do you have one for this movie?
Oh boy, Tone Loc.
Yeah, that's a good one, man.
As I get killed telling you this stuff.
Get killed walking your doggy.
There's so many, and I'm so glad. How about you? Do you have one?
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah. Well, I was going to say at first. I was going to say the diner, the head of the diner guy, but then I liked the Tom Noonan character, who's, hey, this stuff is just sent out everywhere. You just got to know how to grab it. Well, I know how to.
I know how to grab it. Yeah.
I like that, dude. But Tone Loc, dude.
Tone Loc, baby. Richard.
I overlooked that one. Yeah, that was a good one.
So one of the things about that's a great and I'm going to ask you, because we've had some good suggestions on our comments about recurring, and we're going to go over on this, and that's fine because I got more stuff to talk about. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're a little extendo episode here, as we're over an hour. So we haven't gotten into the good laughs yet, because there's some good laughs to be had in this movie. This movie is a straight up comedy in certain parts, and what I was going to say is that we don't get to see. Al Pacino's kind of known for being this yelling, screaming guy. And it's from this movie where we get that character of, you get a little bit of it you get it in Scent of a Woman, of course. But
I think that's where it started. But
it's got to be where it started. I mean, just roaring and yelling.
Yeah.
Which is what his character in Scent of a Woman was supposed to be doing, because he's as pissed off as you're ever going to be. Yeah. Right? He's mad at himself, and well, anyway. But you don't get a lot of yelling and screaming from from Pacino in Godfather. You just don't. You don't get it a whole lot of it in Dog Day Afternoon. You get the Attica scene. But you don't. He's out there and he's just kind of weakly doing it. And so if you're going back watching the old Al Pacino movies, thinking that this guy is just constantly yelling about "she's got a great ass," you're not going to find a lot of that. And the reason why, I'm sorry, can we pause this real quick? The cat's getting into something. It's going to make a bunch of noise. Okay, so with Pacino, you don't get a lot of that. Him yelling and screaming. But in this one, I don't know that it was really intended. And the reason why I say that is because Hank Azaria, who plays the Ashley Judd's characters, Marciano, thank you. He was interviewed, and they were asked somebody on a podcast, and he was asked about that scene of filming the famous, she's got a great ass scene. And what Hank Azaria said was, that's ad-libbed, because Michael Mann is notorious for wanting to do like 100 takes. Yeah. And Pacino was getting pissed off because we've got it. He's used to working with Scorsese, who does like 1 or 2 takes. And then once you got it, you got it. But Michael Mann is notorious for just being okay, let's run it again. Let's run it again. Yeah. And so he was just done with the day. So that's where he's got that whole, and you got your head all the way up it. And Hank Azaria, the look on his face, you see it, how shocked he is. Yeah. How shocked. And he's all, I'm shocked because I'm not expecting Al Pacino to be screaming at me right now. And he's got me by the tie and he's pulling me. He's like, I was legitimately terrified for my life at that point. And that's the take we used. I'm like, dude, that's fantastic.
I love that. I love all of that stuff because I think Christopher Nolan interviewed Mann and Pacino, and I think Robert De Niro was there, and he had asked why there were so many outbursts, and Pacino had said, well, it's because he did have a history of cocaine, and so when you hear that,
Wait,
and
Pacino did, or are you talking about
yeah,
Vincent Hanna?
Pacino said that, or yeah, as Hannah.
That Hanna was like he was on meth or something like that. There's
Well,
been like
he
you've
was
read that
doing
before.
like he was doing key bumps all through the film, like not really, but his character
His
had
characters,
this.
he's on meth. He's on cocaine
No,
because
no,
he's
cocaine. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Just
So it's
doing
cocaine.
like
But we
so
don't see
now that
that.
you don't see it, but it's also hinted at when Nate is talking with McCauley after when he's giving him the pictures. Oh, this is Hannah,
Oh yeah,
and he says, yeah, he has trouble at home. And why do you think he's on his third marriage? What do you think that means? He's out all night. And so he hints at it of like, yeah, he has some trouble, and then he has, and it's like, oh, he has some trouble. So it kind of gets hinted at because he was in narcotics
yeah. He was
before
in
he went
Vice.
to,
Yeah,
yeah, and so all those outbursts now, after I hear that, it just make total sense because it's like, what do you got? What do you got?
yeah. There's so many good ones. The other one that comes to mind where it looks like it's ad libbed, and it probably is when he goes to see
Yeah,
Albert at the chop
yeah,
shop, and he
yeah,
comes out. I've been waited for your call all night. Where the fuck you been, Albert? And Albert's, hey man, I'm making moves for you and all this, and that's when he's, what do you got? But at
yeah,
the very end, when he turns on the way out as they're leaving, the don't waste my motherfucking time. I think goes back to that's not in the script. I'm sure of
yeah,
it. And he's probably done this 20 times, and this is the last take. I'm walking out of
yeah,
here. I'm
yeah,
going to my trailer.
yeah.
We're done for the day. We got the shot, Michael. Mike, can I call you Mike? We got the shot here, man. Come on. Like
What about and then
how many times do you
yeah,
need to run it, right?
and then there's the they dumped all our
Oh my
surveillance.
God, so good, right?
Yeah, and
At
then
the
he's
same
like, I
time,
had coffee with Macaulay half an hour ago.
yeah.
Just
When we first got started working together, you and I in like 2003 at the law firm down here,
yeah,
you I remember, I don't think we knew each other very well at the time. We were probably in the break room at the same time. And you
yeah.
said that line in the break room, like, I had coffee with McCauley half an hour ago. And I was like, is that from Heat? And of course, it's only been, 6 or 7 years since the movie come out. And I'm all, is that from Heat? And of course, and I just remember laughing and you being like, and you and Jared would do a lot of, there's some other lines from this movie. Well, I
Oh
am
man.
over fucking whelmed is one that I will say in my head probably 3-4 times a day, at
Oh
work.
yeah.
I am over fucking whelmed. I mean, there's some
Well,
real laugh out loud lines that Al Pacino has in this movie that are just so good,
I
dude.
got 5 dead bodies,
Right.
Diane,
Yeah,
on
right. Justine.
Ventura Boulevard.
I'm
So I'm
sorry if
sorry
the
if the
goddamn
goddamn chicken
chicken is
is
overcooked.
overcooked.
Dude. Yeah. So let's share that. Um, oh my God,
Yeah,
it's so
tons.
good.
I love that you brought that up, dude, because that is a big part of why I think a lot of people still love this movie. I mean,
There's
it's
so
not
many,
a
there's
huge part,
quotable
but
lines. It's
yeah,
action.
totally
There's,
cool.
it is limited dialogue for the most part. And it's a lot of
But
action.
it
It's a
doesn't
lot of like,
age the movie.
no, it doesn't age the movie at all. And the
Yeah,
soundtrack is in there. It's got that good, right when the big bank heist starts. It goes into that dun, 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 dun,
yeah,
dun, 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 and you're just like, you're watching it. You know it's about to go down, dude.
yeah.
This
Or
is going
when
to go down.
Yeah, when the guy comes in and says, "Hey, you work in that robbery? I got a CI says that they're gonna
Talking about
some
this
bank,
bank at 11 o'clock. Who
and
called
they
that
grab
in
all the fucking jackets
and
and that
gone?
just gets me hyped." Yeah,
Who called that in? Was that Wayne Grow or was it Van
it
Zant who called
was
it in, or who called it in? Do you think
it was Hugh Benny, I think, but it was because of Wangro, I think,
Wayne
because they
Grow is the
went
one who
and
tipped him off? How did Wayne Grow know they were going to hit that bank? Because he wasn't
because
in
they
on
went
that.
well because they went and tortured Trujillo's
Oh,
wife and Trujillo
Trejo, right?
Trail, yeah, and so that's how they got it, and yeah, so he'd been laying there all day, and or after he said, "Yeah, I can't lose him," you know,
Right.
and that's what I think. I've heard other people say that they made him call and say that he couldn't lose the cops.
So you
I don't
think
know what.
okay? So you think Trejo betrays them?
Yeah, not willingly, but I think is because they had his girlfriend maybe or his wife at the time and told him, "Hey, you need to like not go." Or that's what I think. That's what my conspiracy theory is about that. But
I'm
I
not
could.
sure that the clues are probably there, but I've never been able to figure it out. Who calls the cops and says, "Hey, they're going to hit this bank at this time"?
I think it's Hugh Benny because when Pacino gets, when they throw him out the window on his balcony, he's like, "Who told you, to call that in, and who told you that it was going to be that bank?" And so that's when he says, Wangro, this cowboy named Wangro, who now has a room at the Marquee.
Oh yeah. Oh, it is
So
Bro that tells him, huh?
yeah, so it's Wangro, but he got it out of I think Trejo. So
So McCauley shows up to Trejo's. He goes by Trejo.
house.
I mean, have you seen what he goes by Trejo's house with his gun already drawn, with the idea he's going to kill Trejo, who is part of his own crew.
Right, right.
McCauley's showing up because he's like, "You're the only way that they could. Who else would have known this? He's
Yeah,
the only person who it
yeah,
could have been, right? I mean,
yeah,
so and he's ruthless. He's going in there pissed. He's
yeah.
going in there pissed because his buddy Chris now has a broken clavicle from a gunshot wound, and Sizemore's dead,
Yeah.
and he's pissed, right? So yeah, that's that. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And he
That's.
was asking him, "Did you tell him about our
Did you
outs?"
tell him? Did you tell him how
Like,
our way out? And he
I
goes,
don't
"I don't
remember.
think so."
Yeah,
I mean, he's just mush at that point where
yeah.
he's like, I can't feel anything anymore. Just and Danny Trejo, who I don't know if you've ever looked at his IMDb credits, but he's got like 450 acting
Yeah.
credits on IMDb. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it before. And I
Well,
just for fun, he's usually like he's Dan. His name's Danny Trejo, and his character's name is Trejo in this.
okay. I thought it was Trujillo. Okay, yeah,
No,
yeah,
it's Trejo. It's spelled
yeah,
just like his last name. So, and I know that there's been other things too that he's been in where he's been a Danny.
yeah, yeah.
15 credits on his IMDb list that he's either played Danny Trejo or Danny Trejo out of 450. So it's less than I thought. I was like,
Yeah.
and he's so good. He's just so good in everything he does.
Yeah, he was on the Inside of You podcast with the guy that did uh Lex Luthor on Smallville. I can't remember his
Oh,
name, but he has a podcast and he
didn't
was
watch
just
them
on
all.
it. It's called Inside of You. Yeah, and it's funny. It's a cool podcast
Okay,
too.
inside of you. Um,
And yeah,
if
he was just on that one, and he talks about. I haven't watched it yet, but he talks about how he got started in the business, and it was basically he showed up to be an extra, and he didn't have a shirt on, and he was looking for a shirt to wear, and they're like, no, don't, no, just go shirtless. Don't put a shirt on. He said, like, he goes, I think my first couple of roles, I just didn't wear a shirt.
yeah, he's not that big. chess
Yeah.
piece that he's got
Yeah.
is amazing,
Yeah.
and he shows it off in this one too. And he's standing at the
Yeah.
payphone, his shirt's all
Yeah.
open, and you're like, that's the trademark right there. Let's how about the way this movie is resolved? We do get McCauley is now, having worked in a hotel, I will tell you this: they make it look like you can get in and out of these places super easy. It's not really that easy, but it is the '90s, so you need a key to get in. This is when you had actual keys. Were given a key at the front desk. This is pre. Most hotels didn't have electronic or key cards at the time. LA was one of the first that was really trying it out. So you do see him, guys getting access to places that it looks like they're just walking around, picking up key cards and getting into this room. And I think that seeing him, they do it, you can usually walk in through the loading dock if you look like you know what you're doing. And just keep your head just straight ahead, and a blazer often helps in that situation. These guys are wearing that sort of thing, but he gets in. He's able to take his revenge on Waingro, who is he's like, look at me, and he makes him make the bully actually face, which is. Now you're thinking he got off easy because he probably didn't even feel this, right? He's dead in a second. He gets 2 in the chest and 1 in the head, and then that's that. And then at that point, he's got the fire department's coming, and Hannah's on his way, and take it from there. Does this movie all the way to the very final shot? Does it do it for you? Is this the resolution that you were hoping it would be?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
I because you kind of alluded to it a little earlier. He's driving, he's scot-free, and you kind of makes you think, or at least after seeing it as many times as we have, you know he's not going to, he needs to scratch that itch, he needs to finish the job. And so it's also sad because he's free, he has his lady.
Yeah.
And you kind of think, oh, okay, well, that's that. But I think that the thing he was always preaching in the movie of, don't be attached to anything that you can't leave in 30 seconds when you spot the heat around the corner. I think that comes back into play and works against him because he can do that, but it's almost like, you're given this choice of, here's the life of relatively probably obscurity. You can do whatever you want. You have the money to live the way you want. He's saved and no furniture and, no woman. So it's
Right.
has all this money, you can just tell he does. Or you can kind of go down this road and, who knows what that holds. And he chooses that second road. And so I think that, in terms of the movie, I think it's a great ending, but I think in terms of his character arc, I think it's perfect because it kind of reminds you that you, as an old dog, there's some way of thinking that an old dog can't learn new tricks, and or maybe you're destined to live this certain way, but like you said, he wasn't never going back to prison, and so I think.
So you're
I think
thinking, so his connection is more towards, like you said, his connection is more towards his life. It's the action is the juice. It's like you said, if he gets on this plane and they go live on a beach somewhere, what then? What then? What are you gonna do? Like he told him in the diner, he's just all he's like, I don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah.
And
What
never really
life? Barbecues and ball games.
Yeah. He's like,
these
exactly. So when Hannah takes him out off the runway there by the airport, what that final closing scene where McCauley reaches his hand out and Hannah
Yeah,
takes her hand, and that's it.
yeah, yeah,
And you're like, these two guys really had a connection through this
yeah,
whole thing.
yeah,
He
yeah.
turned his back on a sweet life living as Bruce Johnson somewhere, right? In wherever, Crete,
I think New
wherever.
Zealand they're headed to New
Is that where
Zealand.
they were heading? Yeah. Well, that makes sense because it kind of went out like, like it's kind of the way Bodie chose to go out in Point Break. It's like,
Yeah,
look, it's not tragic dying doing something that you love. So he's like, I'm going to
yeah.
go take this guy out because if he had, say, had gone on that plane and they'd gone to the beach and they'd set up a little thing and then he's living with Edie and they're in love and every single day he's thinking about Wayne Grow. Every single day he's like it would have drove him insane. So he had
It
to
would have
turn
been like a yeah, it would have
right.
been like an itch that he couldn't scratch,
Yep.
you know. And I think throughout the course of the movie, you see how thorough he is, and you see how intuitive he is with the things that he does. And so he knows that he can't leave without ending or without putting an end to this because he can and he knows how, and that's how he does things. That's him. And so to do anything other than that, to go off and live with Edie, yeah, he wants it. It's great. It's awesome. But that's in the course of the story, he hasn't learned how to do that.
Yeah.
And maybe he would have if he would have moved to New Zealand. Maybe Edie could have taught him that. But at this point in the game, it's like, no, I have to rely on my instincts, and this is what my instincts tell me to do because they got me through all this other stuff. But sometimes you can only hit about 1,000. You can't.
Yeah. Well,
It's like
he was
threes 190. 197 out of 200. Threes.
yeah,
He's pissed. It's like
right.
Jesus.
That's right. And there were a lot of red flags. Like Edie's close with her family. She's willing to just throw away her future as a graphic designer, where she's left her family that's back in Appalachia, and
Yeah,
she's just going to throw it away for this guy who she's just heard on the news that all these people are dead. And she was like, "Wait, that's you." She knows, she's figured out that he's not a
yeah,
metal salesman, as he
right.
told her. And she's just going to give all. This wasn't going to work. Running away was never going to work. They get to there after a month living with just you and Neil McCauley, who doesn't say a whole hell of a lot,
Yeah,
and who's twice your age, is now, you're going to reach out and call your mom. And they've got new
right,
passports and new names. I mean, he's got new identities for both of them. He picks them up
right.
from Nate. Within, they have new ones all made because they had to throw everything else away. Or the whole plan from before is, forget all that stuff. You got to make a new plan. Yeah, it's a lot. They're able to get a lot done. I think it's an impressive amount of criming that they're able to do. But ultimately, he
Yeah,
was like, "Look, I don't care if I could have stole $1 billion. If I leave and Wayne Grove's still alive, I don't
yeah,
care about the money anymore.
right, yeah. Well, I
Fucking
think,
Wayne Grove,
and
dude."
I think, yeah. Well, I think it kind of alludes to, over the course of my life, I've realized a lot of things, and one of them is that if there's
Wait,
things
wait,
that
wait,
you're
wait. Over the course
right,
of your life, you've realized a lot of things. Hang
yes,
on, I got a fresh piece of paper.
and
Is that a?
oh,
I honestly thought to myself. Okay, I'm sorry. I was starting to distract you. I did thought that struck me as funny for some reason.
oh, okay.
What?
Um, but what I was going to say
Yeah.
is that in this, at the ending is like when uh, I relate to it because I feel like the things that if you if you're going to try and ignore certain things because you brought up the red flag,
Mm-hmm.
so many red flags. I think that when you choose to ignore those things, life has a way of saying like, well, if you're going to ignore them, here are the consequences of that,
Yeah.
of you
Yep.
ignoring things. and and I think that was the ultimate kind of lesson for Edie was because there was all these red flags, and she was kind of lured by the idea that he says you can set up a studio, you can do all your stuff there,
Right.
and so it was kind of like she was lured by all these kind of things that she wants, that this idea of a life that she wants, and she ignored everything else. Oh, he's a crook, he's a criminal, he's a murderer, he kills people, and
And you're not
she
Edie
wants to
anymore.
ignore
You're
all that.
somebody
So I
else.
mean, the consequence of ignoring all that is, look what happened.
Right.
So kind of turned
That's
your
right.
life upside down. So yeah, but
It's
it's just horrible.
it's a sad tale all around. There's
Oh
nobody's,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, Dad. Yeah, definitely.
I'm hoping that Albert and Richard are doing okay in their, their car. They're the Gone in 60 Seconds crew, right? Because he's trying to get rid of his. He's like, yeah, say I tell you what
Hell
you
yeah.
how do I know you're gonna do what the fuck for me and all this, right? Um, and he's
Because I'll tell you
that's right.
when you tell me
Uh,
what I need to know.
So good.
Yeah.
All around at 8.3 on IMDb. It's the highest rated IMDb score of any movie we've done so far. It just beat
Yep.
out The Thing, which is 8.2 on
Ooh.
IMDb. So I was like, I would assume that The Thing was up there. Getting
Yeah.
a lot of good feedback from people about The Thing. There was like, man, I guess I need to watch this movie. I'm like, yeah, you probably should.
Yeah.
I've heard
Yeah.
several people tell me that they just thought it was they got somebody told me they got it confused with The Blob.
Oh.
And
Okay.
they're like, which one? Now, which one's The Thing? I get a
Yeah.
lot of that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, good stuff. But
Well,
yeah,
I forgot to tell you, I
yeah,
just submitted our podcast to Pandora, so now you can listen to us on Pandora as well.
very nice.
Yeah, so I encourage anybody listening or anybody watching, um, to go and download and join our wherever you listen to podcasts. Join and downloads our shows and enjoy them that way, and that helps us out. And yeah, I was thinking about maybe some merch, just a simple T-shirt or something people could wear on the weekends. I was
We've been
just
known to make a
floating.
T-shirt from before.
Yeah,
I
so
don't.
you
I
know,
still have an Echo Dine shirt. I gotta have to lose a little bit of that pound, a little bit of the weight to be able to put it back on. But we know how to make shirts. We can do that
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. So
Do you have a Blue Sky account for this podcast yet?
oh
Because
no,
it's
I
a
don't
good
even
way
know
to
what
get a
Blue
hold of
Sky
us
is.
on our socials too.
That's right. You can go to Stegar Media. We can actually start our own Gonna See My Friends podcast on I don't know what Blue Sky is, but we could probably do it that way. So that
Yeah,
way it's not just coming to my page or your page, but there's a centralized kind of. I was thinking about actually doing that on Threads, but um, yeah.
yeah.
So
So Threads is Zuckerberg's form of Twitter.
yeah.
And then with everybody, well, not everybody, there are a significant amount of people who are choosing to lose Twitter X
Oh
because for personal reasons, and
yeah.
the other option that people have been choosing is Blue Sky, and
Okay.
it's a free app. It's made by Jack Dorsey, who was the
Oh,
original
was the
Twitter guy.
old Twitter guy?
And
Yeah.
so if you
Okay.
remember what Twitter was like in 2015, 2014, 2013, back when it was like
Yeah.
super fun, it's the
Yeah. That's
same
how Threads
platform.
is now.
It's the
Yeah.
same platform. And they've got 15 million subscribers on it right now. And I think they've probably doubled the amount since early November,
Right.
that people are choosing to delete their X accounts and go to something a little bit more, it became so. Ooh, I mean, it was kind of, it was just a lot angry, just very angry site to be on. Twitter was becoming no fun.
Well,
Um,
that's how when I started this whole social media thing, it was
yeah,
obviously it was MySpace, but then it was Facebook. And Facebook used to be a lot of fun, and then it
yeah,
got really toxic. And then so I went to Twitter around the
yep,
time of Echodyne, 2010,
yep.
2011.
I did too.
It was it was fun. It was
It's
like
fun.
just
Yeah, it
people
was fun back
posting
then. There
memes.
was great parody
Yeah.
accounts, great. Somebody does something funky, and it was like Devin Nunes made was complaining about a cow, and the next day there was Devin Nunes's cow account on Twitter. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember that, and it was just hilarious. People
Yeah.
just not taking everything so freaking seriously. But anyway, I am on Blue Sky. Toby Ballinger.
Okay.
Uh,
Toby Ballinger. I'll
yeah,
join then.
yeah, TOBYBALINGER. Said that really fast, but most. So yeah, feel free. I think I deleted my ex account. I deleted the app off the phone. I know that's not deleting the
Yeah.
account, but I do need to go in there and get rid of it because I'm just not using it. I haven't tweeted anything in
Yeah.
4 years, and I see what Threads it wants to be. I don't know that it's going to get there because I don't think people want to be involved in Zuckerberg either. So I mean, it's kind of all going to the. There's so many choices, man. You go Mastodon, you can go, there's Tribal, and on and on and on. But yeah, let's do an account on there. I think I
Okay.
mean it's all free. It took me 10 minutes to set it up last night. So yeah,
All right.
and
Check it out.
what do we got next? Next week we're getting ready for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So we're gonna tell them what we're doing next week.
I know there's other Thanksgiving movies, but the only one the first one that comes to my mind is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So we're gonna have a lot of laughs on that one. I was watching some clips earlier today of the car that they get pulled over by. Um, they
Like
get pulled
McKean.
by Michael McKean. And that whole interaction with John Candy and Michael McKean I was crying laughing. I forgot how funny that scene is. He's also, you have no working instruments, not a one. Oh my God. I can't wait. We're going to have so much fun.
Well, yeah, we're gonna have. I think for December we're gonna try to have some guests on here, and hopefully they say yes, and we'll have three people and another person, and it's gonna. I think in the new year we're gonna hit the ground running with some good movies, some cool guests, and I cannot wait.
Yeah.
So everybody listening, make sure you join where you can, our socials or our wherever you listen to podcasts. And yeah, for now, I guess we'll see you next week. Thanks,
Yeah, we
Toby.
should.
Thanks.
What we could do. Sorry to interrupt you. What we could
No,
do is
go
we
ahead.
could put that info in the show notes. So if you're
Okay.
listening on Apple or if you're listening on Spotify
Oh, that's right.
or YouTube, we can just put that information just right down in the notes of
Nice.
the show. So
And
that's
see, we're learning as we
easy.
go. So we're getting better. We're learning. I'm learning better. It's just going up from here. So yeah. So thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks,
Yeah,
Toby,
thanks,
for
guys.
joining me. And
Thank
we'll
you,
see you
buddy.
guys next week. All right. See ya.
See ya. Bye.